And we're back, Banties. What's up? This is Sam Fisher here with my friend, my co-host, Haley McClenny, your Base Hits and Banter podcast. What's up, Halo?
What's up, man? Today, it's the best day ever. So it's Monday, it's Bun Day. We both are rocking our buns today. And yeah, we are diving into all things fall and all things softball.
Yeah,
For
I
fun.
do. I am digging the Monday Bun Day here. You feel like we've taken on different personas. I got a little alfalfa bun going. You've got like a perky little thing.
I don't know what this is. It's like a wild mess.
It's
That's
it,
that's all it is. It's
yeah,
sweaty. It's gross. It
it's
is
one of
what it
those
is.
things that you just toss up and hope it stays. And it looks like it's firm.
It's so sweaty. I think this is not like one of those wax sticks. It's just like this was a casual 5K that was run this morning and it hasn't moved. So there we go.
It's a natural wax.
I've got a natural wax stick. I don't need to go buy that at a beauty store. Come on.
It's organic.
Grow up. It's organic. It's organic. It's organic.
Oh
Oh,
my,
it's the
I'm so
best.
happy to be here with you, Halo. I mean, there's just so much always to talk about that is good in the world, and that is our
Yes.
sport.
Our sports. Our sports are popping off. And normally everyone's in October. They're like, oh, well, it's football season. Basketball's starting to get warmed up. People are, the Eras tour just kicked back off. And, people are wondering, is T Swift going to go to Travis's game and whatever. But no, baseball and softball are still around. And softball, I will say, the attendance numbers that I have seen in
Yeah,
these fall ball games, like just happen to be like scrolling on sports Twitter or sports TikTok, like whatever it is. And Alabama, I know, had like thousands of people show up
yeah,
for a fall ball game against West Alabama. And no
yeah,
shade to West Alabama. It's a great program, but it's not like it's Alabama, Oklahoma, right? Like
right,
it's a fall
right,
ball game where everyone's gonna play and
right,
it may or may not be good and whatever. And the weather may or may not suck and whatever.
right.
Thousands of people showing up for a softball game in the middle of football season in Tuscaloosa. Who does
You heard
that?
it first. That's insane in the
Who
in the
does that?
best way.
In the best way. In the best way.
Oh,
And I know too, Kentucky hosted Tennessee this past weekend I had to write this down to make sure I didn't mess up what it was called. It
okay,
was the Big Blue Boo. Shout
clever.
out to the Kentucky marketing team because that's genius.
Yes.
Kentucky did lose to Tennessee 11-5. But
Ooh,
those two teams actually they're rivals and they don't meet an SEC play this year, which I thought was interesting. But with conference realignment, you have like premier matchups that you're not gonna get year over year. And I was just happy I happened to be looking at schedules today too, and I'm like, oh, just curious, as a completely unbiased person, like what's Alabama's schedule look like? And they have 3 weeks in a row where they go to LSU. Weekend after that, they host Oklahoma, and then the
yeah.
weekend after that, they go to Florida.
So what you're saying is they've got a light schedule.
So yeah, it's super easy. It's super light. I expect to be 9-0 through that 9 game stretch, and like we'll see. But
SEC.
it's just gonna be wild. Like I know that like through fall ball, it was always so interesting to me as a player because you're obviously thinking about the spring, but you want to improve so many things from
Yeah.
last spring going into this spring. And so fall ball for me was always just like a really fun time to experiment as a player. And now looking on it as a fan, I'm like, am I overanalyzing things? Like, is this team going to be good or is that team going to be good? Like,
Oh
we just don't
gosh.
know. Like,
Yeah.
how is Texas Tech meshing with their new coach and Naja and all of the new transfer portals that they got? How is Nebraska meshing with Jordy Ball now that she's back and is going to throw? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, it's super interesting.
I love that thought process, especially because one thing I think people forget about is that in between the fall and the spring, you have what's called winter break. And for most schools, that's 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. Like that,
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into what you're seeing in the fall and what you're seeing in the spring. So there's a lot of accountability that goes into these players of, hey man, like you're going home for the holidays. But when you get back, like we are kicking it into high gear. So like let's see what we're all about. And that accountability piece I think is huge in these programs.
For sure. What was I for me, January was always the worst possible month.
Yeah, of course.
in softball because it's spring, but you're not playing yet. So you're
In
just
the
playing
fall,
each other. And I hated inter squad scrimmages.
the worst.
The worst. They're miserable. No one likes them. I
No,
get that
not
we have to do them, but like no one likes it.
not one
Um,
bit.
but yeah, what was your favorite part of fall ball? Like, what was your thought process as a player of like, were you experimenting with things, working on things? Like, were you trying to get your confidence up? Like, what was your approach to that?
You know what? That's such a good question. I think after, LMU didn't go into the postseason, you know what I'm saying? So I had a long break between my last game in the spring
Relax.
and my first game in the fall. So I think it was all about like, oh my gosh, like I get to be back on this field. I get to be back here doing what I love and with this team and kind of, as I got older, like help incorporate the rookies, the freshmen, I think my favorite part of fall ball was figuring out how is this team going to mesh and how are we going to carry it into the spring? Because I also love about the fall or even like the January time is like the team bonding, the team things that you do where you go and you get to know each other, you put yourself into situations of figuring out your camaraderie and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just love that kind of stuff. The something about the fall just smells like opportunity. It smells like
It's
potential, you know?
it really does. I think it's really good for the coaches because I think too, like once you get into the February, the March, like your lineups don't really change. There are
Yeah.
some like that you plug and play, but not a ton of coaches out there are like, oh, I'm gonna put like a whole 8 new people in the batting order or whatever.
Right.
But in the fall, it's like it's super experimental, I think, with how a
Uh,
lot of these coaches approach the games because they don't really matter. Like it's just to kind of see what you got. And I
yeah.
know there were conversations that I had with a lot of different coaches of like, we honestly just threw this lineup together and we didn't really expect anything, but then all of a sudden that's how you found your 3 hole hitter that ends up going to be an All-American that year.
Uh,
Like you just never know what's going to work. And so like I think that's super cool. It is a time of opportunity.
yeah.
It's yeah, really
Yeah.
awesome.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. Our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Speaking of good, do we have a fun interview ahead? A great guest.
Oh my gosh. You guys are going to learn so much from this person. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Very enlightening conversation. So
uh,
please enjoy and take notes.
many nuggets. And yeah, enjoy. And, we'll see you right here next week.
All right, Bantees, we are so excited today to welcome a very special guest to Base Hits and Banter. We have Chris Drumm with us. She is the commissioner for USA Softball of Southern California. Prior to that, she was on the national umpire staff for USA Softball. I got to be with Chris at the Tokyo Olympics, which was pretty cool, but she has umpired numerous WBSC events, numerous Women's College World Series. She's a staple in the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Pac 12. She's done a ton of umpiring over the years, and we are excited to have her on the pod. So, welcome, Chris.
Hey, thank you both. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're super happy to have you. I mean, we've talked on the podcast to players who have played all over the world, and you've umpired all over the world. And I would love to know kind of how you got into it, like what brought you to that, and what took you to the level that, the highest level for an umpire truly in softball.
Yeah, it was kind of coming out of college and wanting to earn some extra money, and I thought I would go do that doing some slow pitch. Hey,
Yeah.
having fun out there. And then at that point, in my early 20s, some individuals had seen me umpire through USA Softball of Southern California, and it just kind of took its progression step by step. I remember having smaller goals of doing like a 14 and under state championship, and then, breaking into college or into high school and officiating. We had tons of officials when I started. And, I thought someone was going to have to die before I ever was going to get onto a varsity field.
Oh my gosh.
So, when that happened, that was a big, stepping point in, in my career, was able to break into college at, around San Diego area and then get picked up by some of the Power Five conferences. But my career has just kind of gone parallel to between USA softball, WBSC, and NCAA at the same time. So it's been really interesting. You have the right people behind you that have, know how to umpire, know how to mentor, know how to lead, and actually open doors for you. And then taking advantage of those opportunities. So I would have never thought, you know, traveling internationally was ever going to be a goal of mine when I started in 1994. 10 years into it, it was. So each opportunity that I think, softball continues to grow and open those opportunities, not only for players, but also for the umpires and the fans to experience at the exact same time. So it's been a pretty amazing ride, been all over the world, immersed ourselves into different cultures. It is something special to be able to umpire on the field and get things right when nobody can speak the exact same language. So there's unique obstacles that you get to explore and overcome in the umpiring community.
I love that. You touched on it a little bit, but that was actually one thing I wanted to ask you was we have a lot of people that are like college softball fanatics that listen to this show. And I know as a player, and Sam and I both experienced there's a huge difference between playing college softball and playing international softball. I'm curious what your perspective is for an umpire and if there are anything that you really have to hone in on with where you're like, wait, no, I'm not in college. I'm actually international umpiring. What are some of those differences?
Question. Yeah, from an international standpoint, you don't have the same communication, meaning you have a big play and coaches kind of pop up and start talking to you in the college field. In the international field, we have communication barriers. You're going to have some teams that don't speak your language. So there's a pause on getting an interpreter. There isn't the same excitement about that play. Because again, from a cultural standpoint, they're just going out to you and they're going to ask you the question. They may not have that same energy, passion about the play that they're trying to fight for. And you need to just know that individual is still fighting for their team. It's not about passion. It's not about behavior. It's about their questioning. We find you don't always want to reward poor behavior. Someone getting into your face, somebody, having inappropriate language, that kind of stuff, because we know that a conversation can still be had in a professional manner. So we find sometimes that on an international stage that umpires may be more apt to go get help when there's the excitement, the behavior with it versus the nice female interpreter that comes over and just asks a specific question. I don't think they tagged them. And it's kind of like, well, they weren't excited, kind of thing, and they don't get help. And those are things that I have learned over the years through being an umpire or being an umpire director, that we have to kind of go back and we need to officiate or listen to our participants and base it on their culture, like what they are going to present to you. Someone in South America are going to be very passionate about a big call versus, someone in Asia, their reaction may be a little different. So it's just understanding, and it might be even, on a college field, a newer coach versus a really experienced coach. on that end. So it's understand the cultural experiences and what they bring, and understanding what to do right for the game on that end.
That was such a good question, Halo.
I
What an
I
awesome
love
answer,
that. I've been
too.
excited to have Chris on for a while because we
Yeah.
know that like I don't have the best relationship with umpires sometimes. I don't control my emotions very well. And I wear a lot. You see me play, Chris. Like I wear a
No,
lot of like disagreements on my face. So like I have so many questions. I have
yeah,
I
so,
know.
but
so many questions.
and those disagreements, we might actually at times agree with you. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I miss that. You're right.
right. And
You know,
that's what I always appreciate about you too and other umpires as well is like if I disagree with your call, it's not necessarily personal. It's just like
Right.
and I've kind of learned as I've gotten older,
Mm.
you know, now like we're gonna have like let's just have a conversation about it. Let's keep it professional. Let's, you know, like it's conflict resolution, not necessarily like attacking someone for taking an at bat
agree.
away from you.
I
And it's part of the
agree.
game, right?
Yeah. And I think it's helpful. I think we've seen, especially on the college field, we've seen a lot more players, especially when we're on the bases, actually ask, like middle infielders, because we're at second and stuff, and ask about strike zones.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, hey, if I ask you if that's as far as you're going to go outside, are you going to be upset at me? And I'm like, no.
Mm.
I would love for you and I to be on the exact same page, like
Yeah.
to be calibrated. Or I can just come back and go, hey, that was a little out.
Oh,
I'm not going out that was my miss.
Yeah.
And so it seems like we're having more conversations about players trying to be proactive and collaborative with the umpires to understand and
yeah.
Yeah.
moving forward, because the goal is when we're on the same page, we're moving through things. Our perception is more aligned,
Yeah.
and life is a lot easier for all of us at that point.
Absolutely.
There's times, well, I like am such an empath when I see umpires who like players or parents or people start yelling at them, I want to cry. And so
Ooh.
I love
Bless
this
you.
conversation of like a conflict resolution. I like to ask, I swing at everything. And I like to ask umpires when I foul something off, like, hey, was that going to be a ball or a strike? And I've gotten to know quite a few over the years. Obviously, we all have been around. And they'll be like, yeah, no, that was a ball, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad we're keeping it light. Like, I'm still gonna swing at it, but it's nice to know like we're all there for the same goal, and that's to have a good game. And I would love to know from your perspective, because it's kind of a brutal profession. Do you feel like it takes a certain type of person, or do you think kind of anybody can be an umpire, especially getting to the more elite levels of competition?
Um, I mean, I want to believe anybody,
Mm,
because we all can learn skill sets and
mm,
problem
Mm.
solving skills, communication skills, um, to move forward with it. I think if anybody, really does enjoy the game, and they can get involved, and no longer, the dads that aren't coaching their daughters anymore, coming over to this, I think it's beneficial. Um, I do believe that you have to have a strong and supportive training program
mm,
for
Mm.
people who do get into this profession, whatever officiating they do. I feel when they don't have that, they have those bad experiences where with those hostile parents or a
mm,
hostile coach,
Mm.
and they don't have an outlet to vent to. That they don't have someone to talk to, and that mentor actually giving them feedback. Hey, okay, don't
mm,
take it personally. Let's break it down. Okay, how could we have handled it differently? Maybe you need to address the behavior quicker. Maybe they should have not stayed around. Maybe you should have listened to their question and answered it. And it could be as simple as that, where sometimes we all think, well, ignoring, they'll be quiet. Well, that's actually not the case. So there's again, a strong training program and mentorship, I think, helps out a lot. I know in Southern California, we have a youth program that is doing really well. We have some leagues that have the ability to have youth umpires 12, 13, 14, 15 years old that are actually umpiring their 6, 8, 10s, and 12s.
Oh,
That's awesome.
But they have great board support. There is a zero tolerance for behavior for parents. So it's that entire community that is actually supporting these young athletes that still play, but during their off time, they're umpiring and they're actually learning conflict resolution. They're learning some confidence skills.
Yeah.
They're learning how to be wrong and work through an issue. They're learning how to collaborate with somebody new on the field, gauge balls and strikes, safes and outs, judgment. And these are things that they actually put on their college applications.
awesome.
So
those are really important life skills.
Life skills.
They are huge. And there's something special to see again a young female, a young male umpire that is 15 or 16. They're at a state championship, and they actually had to eject a 38 or 39-year-old adult.
Ooh.
I love that.
Yeah. Yes.
That should go viral.
Really.
Honestly.
But it's how it all happens. It's done professionally. But there's a lot, with that ejection. There's a process that our goal is to assist that umpire afterwards to make sure they know they have the support. How is their energy afterwards? How did they feel about it? Because that's a big moment, emotional moment in front of hundreds of kids and fans at a state championship that this all transpired. So there's just, again, the support is huge. And we have seen a lot of successful individuals. We love to have them stay with us longer, but they get into their careers. They get jobs that aren't as flexible. So, we're appreciative of what they're able to give. And what we learn to move that next generation or that next group through also.
Yeah, that's right. It's no secret there's an umpire shortage across the country. So for you guys to have a program like that's just super cool. And the fact that the kids want to do it and are all about it and learning all of these amazing life skills, that's remarkable, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
I would love to know we also have a lot of parents and coaches that listen in here, and I would love to know from your perspective as an umpire, if I'm a parent or a coach and I'm going to come out to argue with you respectfully because I disagree with the call that you made, what's the best way to approach that conversation? Any advice that you would give parents or coaches?
Yeah. So first thing is the argue piece. Go out and talk to me. You said a professionally piece of it. At that point, it's kind of like, hey, I need to understand what they saw. Because different angles on the field is going to present different things. And, the cool thing about WBSC is we have 4 umpires. You have less gaps. NCAA postseason 4 umpires and then 3 umpires. And for our lower levels, youth ball, it's usually 2 umpires. So there's a lot of space that we have to cover. Ultimately, it's going out, calling time, going out and saying, hey, this is what I saw. What did you see? And at that point, understanding, I saw a tag on the back side of the arm before the foot. Okay, I thought the coach can say, hey, I thought that the tag was on the front side before the foot. Could you get some help? Versus, hey, you blew that call. How could you make that call? And it's kind of like, well, you saw me make the call. There's no secrets on that. What other information do you want? So it's actually going out and, like you said, Haley, is it's the problem solving. What did you see? This is what my perception was. This is what your perception was. Can we get some help?
Yeah. Collaborative rather than argumentative.
Nice.
Totally. And it is.
Okay.
It's seeking to understand.
Mm.
And it's I think it's my responsibility as an umpire to understand what the coach had seen and what they want.
Yeah.
Because when a coach comes out and they're just telling me information, at that point, we're not problem solving. They're telling me their opinion, which I could probably already know what that opinion is.
It's whatever yours wasn't.
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, because they're out there. But yeah, it's seeking to understand, and then filling in those gaps that, hey, coach, I did have this. They slid out here. I wasn't ever blocked. Or, if you're behind home plate, I had it off the knob because the ball went out like this versus it's in here. And yeah, I might have gotten blocked on that end.
So
yeah,
interesting.
It's asking questions.
Yeah. And how do you, if a coach is going to approach you in a negative way, how do you not take that personal? Is that something that you had to learn over the years? Or
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, who wants to get yelled at?
Right. I personally don't. That's why I'm not an umpire.
And critiqued. You're working hard out there. And again, I can be in one position and actually blow a call, and you're like, after you call it, you're like, ooh, okay, I wish I had that one back. But with the personal piece, at that point, it's understanding everybody's role. We all have it's a play, and everybody has a role. The players have a role, the coaches have a role, the umpires have a role, and even the fans have a role. We just want to try to make sure that those roles stay within boundaries. And that would be kind of the professional boundaries. But with that, it is still okay. They're coming out to ask a question, and if a coach is coming out and they're telling me information, it's not productive. At that point, it's my responsibility to start asking questions so we can get into a problem-solving mode at that point.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that, there's always heightened emotions in games, but when you're seeing you're at like an 8-under game and umpires are getting reamed, you're like, okay, let's think about this, you guys. Let's just really quickly. Let's just think about
Yes. Well, and again, it has been amazing. There has been some really good, especially at our state championships. There are some very talented athletes that are coming up. So they're very competitive games, but when you're at a startup, first year, recreational, the kids are all learning their skills.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's understanding what those goals are. From a commissioner's hat, that's probably the thing that is sometimes the most disappointing is how aggressive parents can be, if it's at the umpires or the athletes and the coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these coaches, they're volunteering, and we do appreciate. Now, travel ball, they're in a different kind of set. This may be more of, a part-time or full-time job for them. But for our recreational leagues, these parents are volunteering. They're trying to do good for our community. And if we can remember that this is a community event, we're growing, we're trying to help our athletes grow, get skill sets. It just would make everything a lot more fun and enjoyable. And not as tense with things happening during all-star season and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's so real. I would love to transition talking about the commissioner hat that you're the USA Softball Commissioner of Southern California, and being incredibly biased from Southern California, I would say that's the hottest spot in the country for softball.
I
One
would
would agree.
agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, biased or unbiased. I mean, come on.
I'm not biased, and I
Not at
completely
all.
agree. SoCal is it. That's it.
The mothership.
Yes.
So what does that entail, especially being that softball is so huge in Southern California?
Yeah, so it entails an amazing volunteer staff is what it entails. From our JO commissioner, all of our district commissioners, to oversee our 7 districts and hundreds of leagues, that go in, and there's, 40, 50,000 athletes that play with us, during a year.
Yeah.
We have our adult program, slow pitch, and of course our umpire program that does, continue to thrive post COVID, which we're really happy about. And again, it's just because of the training. We've been very successful across the board because of the training from the JO, the ACE programs, and then on top of what we're able to give to our volunteer coaches in training programs on the fields, and different clinics that we're able to offer our athletes. So, we do believe in training. So those athletes and those volunteers continue to grow the program and their skill sets across the board.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like a whole community essentially putting softball together, putting softball on. And gosh, what like is your area? Like where is Southern California?
Perfect. So we start at the Mexico border, we go north.
Okay.
Right below Santa Barbara. So
Wow.
we're at Ventura, so Santa Barbara, and then we'll go across over to like Lancaster and then hit the Arizona border. So we
That's
have
enormous.
a very large space and population that
Oh my
we
gosh.
take care of. And we lwe love it. We would take more of California if we got it.
Wow.
Man.
So
I'm shook because that's
got to be bigger than most states.
Yeah, yes, literally.
Yeah.
You could probably fit a couple of Rhode Islands in there.
Yeah.
40 Rhode Islands. How many, like, what numbers are we talking, Chris?
Well, we register about just youth players about 50,000 in a year.
That's super casual.
That's individual registration. And again, that's our recreational program. We'll have some players, in travel ball that will come in. But again, our footprint is very heavy in the recreation at this time. We know we got the other, high profile groups that are kind of taking care of the travel ball, which we partner with them and we send umpires over there. So, we do partner with those other organizations to make sure that we are still, collaborating when it comes to softball and the experiences.
50,000.
My brain kind of stopped functioning.
It's like barely scratching the surface too. Well, I mean, it's really cool that softball is in such a cool spot. And I would love, Chris, from your perspective, you've seen obviously these youth athletes that you get to kind of oversee. You've seen the best of the best internationally from umpiring. What is it from your point of view that makes an elite athlete an elite athlete?
Whoa.
Just
Yeah.
curious.
And that I get to only see the surface, where you guys get to see the behind the scenes, day in, day out grind.
Yeah.
So I think, being able to see the athletes that are, coming up, they're, at 16, 18 and under, then get to see them in the college, and then they hit the international platform. I think it's, again, how they present themselves on the field. If it's, their confidence, working through adversity on the field, working with their other teammates, relying on their teammates when, things aren't going right. And or being that leader on the team, if it's in the huddles, bringing them together, when things need to change. So I get to see surface things, versus, again, like what you guys get to see, but it's leadership skills, it's communication skills, it's their confidence, it's humility.
Right.
It's, being present in the moment.
Right.
It's being able to see them, really have that huge smile when they're able to get through a tough situation, or they just grind through, and, the team's getting 6 outs instead of the 3 outs. And they get back in the dugout and they're ready to go again. So it's that resiliency, on those things. You just see it in their behaviors, in their presence on the field, the energy. And we just took a team over to Tokyo, and you can see we have 15 and under, 16 and 17-year-olds, and you can see some of those attributes and characteristics in them, that they're grinding, on that end, and they see that goal and the goals that can continue, and they're gonna be present, but ultimately they're just gonna make those small steps so they can finish and meet that ultimate goal.
The pipeline to the women's national team.
HPP has helped me find a new identity in who I am as a player. It's helped show how hard work pays off, and it's really got me excited for the future of our game, the future for me, the future for my fellow athletes, and for what I strive to do in the future in college, and then potentially with USA softball in the future.
That's awesome. And what a cool experience for these kids to do what you guys just did and go play in another country, see how people from a different place play the game, especially going to Japan. I mean, you want to talk humility and grind and just all the things that you're mentioning. You go and you watch a Japanese practice or a Japanese game, and you are seeing the perfect example of it. So these kids are getting just, they probably have no idea how great and how important that lesson is going over there.
Yeah, again, unique scenario that was presented to USA Softball, that came back up to USA Softball Southern California, and I was really appreciative that our board, understood that an experience like this is a once in a lifetime. That huge. We're not sure when this is going to happen and come in for us. It is a big investment for us, but again, we just felt like it was going to be the experience piece. And being able to have a good host and partner in Japan. They are amazing hosts. They take care of you. And these athletes did get that experience. We did get rained out one day, but Tokyo was an amazing host. They called a great audible. The kids learned baseball 5. Which is a unique game, great indoor game. So cool. They got to play and with the other Tokyo team, and I will say Communication barriers were not an issue with these kids to have fun and know how to interact together.
I
So
love that.
yeah, these kids, it was amazing to see them light up. Their parents come down every morning and usher them and wave by on the bus. Make sure they're ready and waiting for them when the bus arrived back at the hotel. There was just a great set. It was just prideful, grateful. And the kids, they took advantage of every moment and immersed themselves in it. Our first night at the hotel, we were eating dinner and there was not one phone out at all.
Love that. Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
They were just taking full advantage of it and actually getting to know, and they were present with each other. So that was amazing to just see, so and that was them doing that.
I love that.
Gosh, especially that age. It's like the
Stay
phone
present, kids.
Yes.
Gosh, I love that. And what a cool opportunity. I mean, you think about it, one day, what if one of those players plays pro and goes over and plays in Japan or for USA softball in Japan? Like, there's just so many things that sometimes, especially in softball, I mean, and in life, if you can see it, then there's the possibility to dream about doing it. So gosh, I can't imagine being that age and being like, yeah, I'm just going to play softball in Japan.
So amazing.
Whatever. But as we kind of wrap up, I have kind of a question. I would love to know if you have a favorite game like that you've been a part of, if something has stood out where you think back when people talk to you in conversation and you're like, you know what, this is the game. It's tough.
Like a softball game?
Like a softball game that you've been in, that you've umpired, whether it was 10 and under or the Olympics. Like what's something that sticks out?
Yeah, I have to say that the feeling I had in my first 14 and under state championship game is awesome. Because I was on the plate. I had two really experienced umpires on the bases, and that the environment, it felt exactly the same as my first college World Series plate game, as my bronze medal game at the Olympics. That same feeling I have felt at multiple events. So I would say it started with my first 14 and under state championship game back in the day.
That's such an awesome answer.
I'm crying.
Yeah.
I'm crying.
No,
That's
it was
so cool.
It was cool. And the way, again, being a young female umpire at that time, the way the support was from the staff, support from other people, again, I can't stress enough with umpires or officials out there. Having a good support system means a lot, because you're going to fail. You're going to have hard games. And you guys know that. And it's being able to have that support system to work through that. And be able to rebound it and move through it. So, but yeah, it's just, being able to look up from a position and look around and see that you're in a different country, and what it looks like and what it means is, or even a different stadium. I mean, there's amazing stadiums that are here in our states, for our colleges. And it's just something special about being there and being present and being able to take in its history, the importance of that event at that time.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's so fun.
So good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us, Chris. This was awesome for us just to be able to hear your perspective and chat with you, but I know it was super impactful for all of our listeners.
No, I appreciate you guys. And again, great for us. And again, appreciate you guys highlighting our kids going to Tokyo. It was a great event. And again, we all got to take care of each other.
Yes, we do.
We need officials, and we all know that we have to get better. because the game continues to get better. But it would just be nice if we could all figure it out and get more people out on the field, because there's plenty of games to be played.
Absolutely.
That's the truth. Yeah, we're all on the same team. Truly, we're all
absolutely.
And we're all involved in a sport of failure. Like, we're all in this together.
We are.
Exactly.
Well, Chris, thank you. And I'm sure we will be seeing you at some point somewhere on some field.
Absolutely. Yes. Hey, I appreciate you guys. You have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Chris.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
At this time, we would like to thank the USA Softball Store at usasoftballstore.com for our amazing gear this week. You guys can have the exact same gear that Samu and I have literally right now if you go to usasoftballstore.com. So go literally right now, and you can use code BHB15 right now and get 15% off your entire purchase. So buy a lot of stuff, get that 15%, let it all go to use. usasoftballstore.com. Again, that code is BHB15.